SHUJA is a trained surgeon who went on to have a successful career in venture capital, where he introduced human values into his investment criteria. He's gone on to use his own money for philanthropy, helping out people in need. You could say he's a heart surgeon with a heart of gold.
I was the CIO of one of the Dubai government's private equity funds and real estate fund. It was about $10 billion, which was about 10% of the GDP of the country. I think you have to put away the zeros. If I think every day someone was looking at a company and saying that's $10 million or $100 million of value being eroded, you wouldn't sleep at night. So typically what you're looking at is how do you optimize these companies, ideally to help them to develop that, because we cannot own and manage, in my case, 74 companies simultaneously. If someone asks me what is the most important thing you look in a company, the way I answer it, that it's the management. We might like the numbers of a company. That all is very secondary to me especially. We are looking at what is the management about. What I've noticed, and I've really seen some talent shine, is when recessions hit. The reaction of the executives and how they treated their employees was very, very telling. Do you just say, I'm going to fire everyone because I have to save costs? It's the easiest metric to measure. And then most recently, COVID. I mean, that has been a global phenomenon. We're all suffering from it. But I've been privileged to see some CEOs do an amazing job. But then when the markets came back, that particular CEO hired the entire staff back again. And he did lose some money. And he was one of the lucky ones where his restaurants actually survived and did better post the openings in the UK in COVID. But to see that CEO behave that way makes you think, next time I'm investing in a F&B system, I would invite him to join me in these meetings. Between 2009 and 2012, I've been involved in 7 bankruptcy filings, of which the majority were able to be rescued. That involved employees losing their jobs if we messed up. And the good CEOs, the good board members take that into account, that this is not about some quick return that we want. This is about 1,400 employees who have nothing to do with the way we manage that company, and yet on a trigger will lose their job in one day. And that's the sort of empathy you look for. Yes, people let go, and therefore they just get their severance package, and there is just no other money to be around. But then the CEO makes 10 phone calls and tries to get that person placed. Is there, even for junior staff, to say, I'll be your reference? In surgery, there is obviously a lot of pressure. So I think that working under pressure, especially if at the end, while I don't want to oversimplify, not everything in surgery is life and death, but certainly for the patient, they have given you their life in their hands for that instant that they are under anesthetic. Certainly on a general basis, I don't get anxious, because whatever we do in a company is not life and death. Yes, there are implications, but at the end, things don't lead to someone dying on a table, for example. So you always have to put that perspective in place. I just find it very helpful when there is a crisis, whether it was 08, 09, whether it's COVID, someone has to keep their head. Someone has to think logically. Someone has to be a little bit Mr. Spock-like, where they don't run into a crisis and are confused. You work with limited information at that time. So having that balance really helps. Very proud of my father. Everything I've learned is with his lens. And I'm even if I'm a part of the person he was, I would be proud. He was always about people since I was a child, whether it was a cleaner on the street or whether it was an admiral in the Navy. He treated everyone with respect, and it reflected back on him. He would help people out, and not just financially, but also in terms of moral support. So those things as a child, you just learn when you see it constantly, all the time, as part of the DNA of someone. So it's not something that you can just be taught to say, be good to people. You actually see someone night and day for literally the whole part. I don't remember a single incident, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, of where he hasn't put the other person first. He said to me, never stop learning. The more you learn, the better off you will be. He had a very famous saying. He said, if you're going to, I don't mind what you are, even if you're a dustbin bin man, which is the trash collector in the UK, be the best one. And we never knew what that meant. We literally didn't know what it meant, but he said it all the time to us. And now when I look at my age, I look back, I go, yeah, whatever you do, try your best. I think your example of sports is like at the ultimate edge of this, because if a sportsman doesn't improve, they have to retire. And I do agree that in corporate world, you get to a certain stage, maybe it's senior vice president or even C-suite, and you think you've arrived, but the economic cycles are getting shorter. The issues that we're facing are getting different. I think the shareholder measurement of just share price and earnings per share is really changing. I hear a lot about ESG and sustainability. I think that has to weave its way into the corporate world. I know there's a lot of talk around it, but as that becomes one of the measures, people will have to reinvent how they do business and how does it translate to all the parts of their business. So that reinvention and looking at the lens each time is very important. That's a tough question. Look, if you mentioned my father, if people remember you as someone who has helped in whatever they've touched, in whatever way they can, that they've been fair, that they have been honest and true to what they have said they were delivering, then I think that's great. The themes are about how do you leave behind something better than when you started? And as long as I've done that, I'm more than happy, and hope that then translates to the next generation.